Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartiya and welcome to another episode of TFiR Let's Talk. And today we have with us Murli Thirumale, VP and GM of Portworx. Murli, it's great to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
First of all, this is the first time you and I are talking on camera, so I would love to know a bit about. Of course, I do know, but for folks and audience, tell us a bit about Portworx.
Portworx is a platform a software platform that allows people to be able to deploy containers in production at scale, as well as be able to operate databases at scale in production. So it's really a kind of a one-stop shop to run all kinds of containers and databases in production.
Can you talk about how the market has evolved, how they have matured? Of course, we are now talking about Kubernetes. Containers have been in Docker time. They were moving to production, but Kubernetes, they are moving into production. Even saying that Kubernetes is running production is kind of funny because they have been around for a while. So talk a bit about how have you seen this evolution from the perspective of maturity. And when we talk about maturity, that also means the maturity of ecosystem around it.
Yeah, I think really the origin of containers was really to allow applications to be developed and deployed very, very quickly, right? I mean, nowadays the world is all about speed. The fast enterprises are eating the slow enterprises. So in other words, if you're able to operate fast, then you can gain a competitive advantage in your business using technology. And so that was kind of, in the early days of containers in the 2016 kind of period, that's why containers were so popular with developers. Now, fast forward now 4 or 5 years, and what has happened is it's well known that developers can develop really, really fast using containers, developing containers really fast, using applications or deploying applications really fast. There's two components to it. One of them is allowing the application to be divided up into smaller microservices so that you can individually kind of deploy and improve each of these microservices really fast. That allows the app to be developed fast. On the other hand, now it also allows the app to be deployed instantly anywhere if it's running in containers. So for example, I could run a set of applications in containers in, say, the US, in say, Amazon, AWS, and then literally the next week I could be running them in Ali Cloud in China and allow that deployment to be kind of moved internationally really fast. So that speed and agility is both in development and in deployment. So what has happened now from the early days of containers is the benefits of containers now have been kind of well accepted, right? About 80% plus of new applications now are being developed using containers and cloud native technologies. In addition, what is happening is the industry has matured significantly. The technologies themselves have matured. The interfaces have kind of matured to the point and where now things can be deployed very quickly and in a stable manner. And that's, I think, been one of the big changes, is that you can now operate in production at scale and deploy application in days versus months. You can kind of operate at thousands of nodes versus tens of nodes. And so the maturity of the industry has enabled the technology to be much, much more accepted and deployed very quickly by enterprises. So they're not really experimenting with it anymore. They're able to get to production really quickly. And I think that's some of the technologies where Portworx and other people in our industry have really enabled the deployment of containers to be simple, kind of one click, much more automated. And here is the key difference: much more self-service, so that the platform teams in enterprises now can offer some of this as a self-service model for their customers, which is the line of businesses. So Swapnil, as you know, right, one of the big changes has been the movement from a focus on software to focus on as a service. Many more people, the cloud has kind of changed everybody's mind. Everybody expects to be able to consume things now as a service. And today now, container deployments can be consumed in an as-a-service manner. Databases can be consumed in an as-a-service manner using some of the technologies. So the first phase was really experimental, focused on developers. We're past that phase. Now, DevOps and IT ops departments are deploying some of these in a very kind of mature set of industries with the ability to kind of have the confidence that they can scale to thousands of nodes with ease.
You folks, specifically because if you look at Kubernetes, folks are doing so many things. You folks especially deal with the storage challenge. So if I can ask you that when we are looking at containers, Kubernetes in production, of course, the picture is not rosy. There are big challenges, especially when it comes to storage, because if you look at Kubernetes early days, it was more like stateless, but now it's stateful. So talk about the challenges that customers face when it comes to storage, leveraging Kubernetes and containers.
Yeah, the challenges really kind of fall into two areas, right? So as you rightly pointed out, in the early days, people were really deploying containers for applications which didn't require a lot of data transactions. So, right, they were what you call stateless transactions. But look, I mean, enterprises have most of the mission critical applications are stateful. They involve some kind of a data, right? Some sort of data is changing. Some aspect of that application involves data. So really, to be useful, you need to start deploying stateful applications. So the two areas of challenge have been, how can I run in production? And second, how can I run databases in a very simple way? Because there's so many modern databases. So let's take challenge number one, right? To run at scale in production, modern IT ops now expect certain things, right? They expect high availability. They expect the ability to do disaster recovery and go back to a previous version if there was any kind of problem with the app. And third, they expect to be able to kind of go do backup and be able to use sort of go to a old version of the application or the old version of the data. And so these are normal everyday expectations of production, right? That they have HA, DR, and backup. And so these are the difficult challenges that didn't exist in the early days of containers because they were running stateless applications. But as they run stateful applications now, they need these three things, and that's what Portworx provides. Portworx allows customers to deploy containers with high HA, ability to provide disaster recovery and backup, right? That was challenge number one. The second challenge is the multitude of modern databases that people see in the world today, right? In the old days, people had, it was Oracle, DB2. I'm talking quite a few days ago, but in the last 8 to 10 years now, modern databases. What are examples of those? Postgres, Cassandra, Redis, Couchbase, Mongo, right? Or even messaging services like Kafka or RabbitMQ. These are all things now that developers are using. There's a multitude of databases. So one of the challenges that IT and DevOps have is, how can I support all these databases? Because each one, installs a different way. Each one replicates a different way. Each one has a different way that it does patch upgrades. So what Portworx has provided is a extension of its containerized platform that allows databases to be deployed as in a simple database as a platform model. Just one platform to run all of these modern databases. So you can run, when I say run, you can install, deploy, upgrade, patch all these databases the same way using Portworx, right? And Portworx data services. And so these are the two challenges: being able to run and provide HADR backup at scale, and second, be able to kind of simply support and have one throat to choke, so to speak, for all of these modern databases. And these are the two problems that we're solving for customers.
And as we're talking about these different databases and their own challenges, what about multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, where you are not running not just on one cloud, you are spreading it across, you're moving it around to So what kind of challenge that poses for customers, and how once again Portworx or Pure Storage helps them with that as well?
Absolutely, right. So there are two things that people have done, right? They have moved to one and a cloud model. The cloud, it's a, it's maybe worth pointing out that more and more and more things are being cloudified, so to speak, right? If it's not the public cloud, even on-prem enterprises have moved to a private cloud model. So one is the variable consumption that the cloud provides. But the other benefit of the cloud model is the as a service model, being able to kind of just treat everything as a service and plug and play, right? You just consume it, you program it as if it's a service. You're not trying to become an expert in the software. You just consume the service. You're focused on the business outcome. So what people have really embraced the cloud model, right? Whether it's on-prem, hybrid cloud, or public cloud. But one of the problems that people have seen is that there are two issues with it. One of them is cloud lock-in, right? They don't want to be locked in to one provider. And the second, because of costs and so on. And the second problem is often they can't run on only one cloud because they need to be geographically dispersed. There may be sovereignty reasons. When they go from one country to the other, they have to keep the data in that country, so they may not have access to being able to put it anywhere randomly in the cloud. So as a result, now customers are saying, "Hey, I cannot be tied to just one cloud. I may need to have some data on-prem, some in the public cloud. I may need multiple clouds. I don't want to be locked in." So multi-cloud is increasingly a requirement that we're seeing. To be perfectly, candid with you, we see this as being kind of initially, most people start with one cloud, but very soon they kind of say, "Oh my God, I can't be locked into one cloud because now my applications are multiplying. I'm seeing a higher cost." So this is usually a phase one, phase two, and I expect in the next couple of years that right in the beginning, customers will say, "I want my cloud to be, I want a multi-cloud kind of answer to my deployment. I don't want to be locked into one cloud." So what you pointed out was rightfully so. Things like Portworx, we call it an any solution. We can run, any application, right? We can run it on any Kubernetes distribution, and we can run on any infrastructure, which is any cloud, public cloud, private cloud, whether it is, AWS or Azure or Google or a cloud of your own choosing. So effectively, what we're able to do is provide that cloud independence and be multi-cloud. We can provide you the Kubernetes distribution independence, and of course, we run on any application and any database. So I think more and more people are looking for these kind of it's really middleware. It's the new middleware in the modern world, where people can kind of run and know that they can move from one cloud to the other anytime.
As much as we love to talk about multi-cloud, the thing is, the cloud providers, they do like to have you on their cloud. There's a big challenge of data gravity. Applications, they can go anywhere, but data is what has real value. So can you also talk about, when we talk about Portworx or Pure Storage, how much concern your users have in terms of greater data gravity there, so that and also vendor lock-in, and how do you actually enable them to be able to move? It's not that they move from one cloud to other cloud, but different cloud vendors, they provide different, so you want to mix and match. Hey, I want this from AWS, but I want this from Azure or GCP. So talk about that.
Yeah, so you put your finger on it, right? It's not about having one app be on multiple clouds. That's really rarely happens, right? However, there are two cases where we kind of see the need to be cloud independent, right? One of them is a hybrid cloud model. And by that, it's, very simply what we see as a very common use case is people develop the application in place A, let's say on-prem, but they scale to production in place B, which is, say, the public cloud. Or vice versa, they might start to develop in the public cloud because it's easy to kind of get access to certain resources and test. But when they want to run in production, they run it on-prem. So essentially, the hybrid cloud is not that you're running the same workload in both places. That rarely happens. What really happens is that you use one place to develop and the other place to scale, and use it as a extension really of your development cycle, right? And deployment cycle. So that's one kind of common place. And so you want to be able to kind of have platforms that allow you to kind of move from on-prem, from a development mode to a production mode. That's one example. The other one is what you described, which is certain clouds are optimized for certain things. You might prefer to get sort of a database deployment and a certain type of scalability for certain types of apps in Cloud A. But you might discover, for example, if you're trying to do AI/ML, that certain other clouds is optimized for AI/ML. They may have better TensorFlow deployment software. They might have better GPU support, right? Another example is privacy reasons, right? There are certain applications that you might want to secure, and you prefer to run it in a cloud that has sort of the security protocols that you prefer, right? So the idea is that with more and more applications being cloudified, people want choices. They want to be able to have a choice for being able to deploy both on-prem and in the cloud, as well as be able to choose different clouds, sometimes for second sourcing reasons, but mostly because they could optimize for one cloud for a particular type of deployment versus another. And so again, all of that boils down to, the cloud is getting to be more of a commodity. Now, you're right about data gravity, and one of the things that people want to do is when they make a change, they might kind of transport parts of the data and migrate that data. So data migratability is a key feature that they want, right? And again, Portworx has kind of the ability to be able to allow them to migrate from one cloud to the other and not be locked in. And so these type of features become increasingly important as people embrace the cloud model versus just one cloud. Does that make sense?
Murli, thank you so much for taking time out today and not only talk about the company, but also the challenges that are there because of this maturity of adoption and embrace of Kubernetes containers. And thanks for sharing those insights. But as I said, this is not a topic we can conclude in one session. So I'd love to have you back on the show to talk about more challenges that customers face in this space. But I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Swapnil. Thank you for taking the time, and we're happy to say that I think many customers now can start to deploy containers at scale with data, with confidence, and with the comfort of knowing that it's going to work, as opposed to having some of the struggles that they face with early technology. We're past that and really into the early majority adoption of containers and modern databases. Thank you.